here in Belo Horizonte, a wonderful place, especially with your institute and with this technology park. And I thought I better not waste these people's time. So what I tried to do in these 45 minutes is prepare the 20 most important slides I've ever prepared about innovation. What every innovator, no matter where you are working, needs to know about innovation. It's going to be an ambitious presentation because we're going to span 4 levels. Your individual innovation capacity, your team's innovation ability, your organization's innovation culture, and last but not least, something I have worked on recently, the innovation ability of an entire region like Minas Gerais, the innovation ecosystem. And I want to share with you innovation enablers, empirical research that shows what works to enable innovation, great tools and techniques that you can use right away to be more innovative, and a few key concepts that come out of the history of innovation studies. And all of that on 20 pages, on 20 slides. So the agenda, why am I going to visualize all of this? First, because visually you will remember more and you can apply it more directly. Also, I want to talk about why do we have to look at all 4 levels. And you'll see we see similarities from the individual to the ecosystem. You will see, for example, that on every level, openness and persistence are key. Whether we're talking about an individual inventor, engineer, whether we talk about a team, an organization, or an innovation system, the mix between openness for new ideas and focus and consistency and perseverance is always important, if not to say the most important thing for the innovation ability of any system. So I'm going to focus on 4 levels so that we see the differences, but also the similarities. And then I want to share with you the most important results individually on teams, organizations, and ecosystems, and hopefully we'll have some time. Oh, muito obrigado. Água de beber. And then hopefully we'll have a discussion. So just real quick, this is how my eye looks right now. It's black. No, but it's also a symbol for why a visual primer. I'm a big believer in visualization. I think many innovation practices that are visual are better than if you just listen or write. Whether it's road mapping or other techniques, I also believe in Sankey diagrams, maybe justified or not unjustified. I believe a lot in visual tools because they help you see the big picture, literally. They help you comprehend things quicker, especially the young generation among here. I see most of you are younger than me, so you're also more visual. The younger generation is much more graphic visual and can perceive things quicker. But visually, you can also compare things better than in text. And it's easier to apply. And I think most of you here want to apply, use what you learn. This is not art for art's sake, it's to apply. And what I like visuals the most, they're expansive. I will show you a few visuals, and I'm sure you will build on them. You will continue, you will use them and make them your own. And it's the same reason, the same 5 reasons why I think it makes sense to talk about individual, team, organizational, and ecosystem creativity. To have an overview, because it was really interesting, Raoni, you said, sometimes for innovation, it's not the institutional things that matter. It's the informal relationships, right? So that's already a connection between team and organization. And we'll see more such connections as we go along. You will see the interplay between the levels. You can compare factors, and you will always see, no matter what level we're at, openness and persistence are always the most important ones. But they're also mutually exclusive. It's hard to be very perseverant and believe in your own ideas, while at the same time be open to other people's ideas. We will see this is the core dilemma of all innovation. Openness versus persistence. Believing in your own ideas while staying open to criticism from others. It's so hard. And again, also expansion. Maybe we can even go to the next level to innovation as a planet. But I haven't prepared that. You will have to help me for that. So let's start with simple things. What makes you creative? What makes a single person or a married person innovative? The individual. The research is pretty clear. I won't bore you with a lot of theory or empirical research, but sometimes research really has a lot of practical value. In many studies, it has been shown by Nisted and others that the best predictors for an individual's ability to come up with good ideas that are useful and new are two traits that rarely come in one person. And these two traits are being very persistent, or as Walt Disney said, having constancy. Believing in your dreams, believing in your ambitions, being like a dog that when it has a bone in its mouth, doesn't let it out, right? Persistence. You know, we will see later on, Edison invented like 100 light bulbs that did not work, right? Steve Jobs needed the help of Hewlett Packard to finally build the Apple. He failed a lot of times together with Steve Wozniak. You see this time and time again. Innovation is all about people who were persistent, who just tried one more time, who didn't give up. In combination with flexibility, with trying new things. They were very persistent. They are very persistent, but if something doesn't work, they're also willing to change how they do things. And this is a magical combination. So if you want to know what can you learn from some of the greatest creative minds, it's being at the same time very focused, persistent, relentless, consistent, but also flexible if you see it doesn't work, right? There are many stories in innovation studies of failures of people who were too narrow-minded, too stubborn. For example, when the Wright brothers invented the first way of flying, they tried many different things. They didn't have as many resources as others, but they were also more flexible. They tried more different things. There was just the two of them. And as you will see, by the way, later on, that's another innovation enabler, teams of two. The most creative unit is not the individual. Many of the people who are flexible and persistent realize they can be even more creative when they pair up. But more on this later. First, let's explore these two qualities, flexibility and persistence, not just theoretically where they have been validated, but also through a few examples. And I just mentioned Edison, right, who has had so many patents and thought about creativity a lot. And he said, I haven't failed. I just found 1,000 ways that did not work. In his laboratory, there were literally, dozens of failed experiments, products that never came to light, right? If you want to be more creative, fail more. Don't be afraid of failure. Be persistent. We can learn that from him. He also said many of life's failures, in terms of people, are folks who did not realize how close they were to success when they gave up. We would have many more innovations if people were just a little bit more persistent sometime. So we have to teach our children also to be more persistent, to not give up too easily, if that is really one of the secrets of creativity. And we have to cultivate persistence in ourselves as well. Our greatest weakness, Edison said, lies in giving up. The most certain way to succeed in innovation is always to try just one more time. Right? When Monty Python was asked why they were the funniest comedians ever, they said, we are never content. We always try to make our jokes just a little bit weirder, just a little bit funnier. And I always try to tell my students, when you're ready to submit your work, don't submit it. Think of one thing you can do to make it just a little bit better, and then submit it. Genius does, in conclusion, innovation is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration, or hard work, right? Hard work. It was one thing to say, hey, we could have a physical Sankey. That's very easy, but then Raoni's team actually built one outside, and I would encourage you to help them complete it. Or let's take another great example of creativity. Edison, the most productive inventor ever, right? From forms of electricity, light bulbs, and so forth, who, by the way, paired up with Tesla, not the company, the individual. Most of his best ideas came not from Edison, they came in collaboration with partners in his lab. And one of his most productive and conflictual collaborations was with Tesla himself. But another one that we have to talk briefly about, because he also, like the researchers, found that persistence, and like Edison, he found out persistence is the most important thing for creativity, and it was Walt Disney, who you all know. And he talked a lot about the importance. He didn't call it persistency, he called it constance, right? Not his daughter, but this factor of innovation. I can never stand still. I must explore and experiment. I am never satisfied with my work. You see that a lot in creative people. They hold themselves to very high standards, right? I'm never satisfied with my work. I resent the limitations of my own imagination. I just saw that, maybe you heard, Bruno Mars was in Belo Horizonte. He's not satisfied with being an amazing singer. He's not satisfied with being amazing on the guitar. His guitar solos in Mineiro, they were amazing. He's not satisfied with just being an amazing dancer like the next Michael Jackson. He was doing the moonwalk, and he was amazing. He's also playing the drums, and he was also fantastic on the piano. Amazing. And he was speaking a little bit of Brazilian, of Portuguese as well, right? Bruninho, I think you call him, right? Bruninho. So what Walt Disney found, there is a special secret. There is a special secret to creativity, and this special secret can be summarized in 4 C's. Constancy, there you have it again. But also curiosity, and I think that's something, when you have to evaluate a candidate to hire, always look for curiosity. Every recruiter says it. Today, the single most important quality when you hire a person, are they curious or not? Because the ability to learn is the most important thing today, maybe together with soft skills. Confidence, this is again, the persistence. They're confident in their ideas. They pursue their ideas. Courage to believe in your ideas, right? I think curiosity is the openness, the flexibility, and then courage and constancy and confidence are all about persistence. And he says the greatest is confidence, pursuing your ideas relentlessly. When you believe a thing all the way and unquestionably. But this unquestionably, I don't agree. You have to always question your ideas. That's the openness part. So that thing, the last word, I don't agree with. Let's use, and his formula was dream, diversify, and never miss an angle. He was also very peculiar that after invention comes innovation. You have to really, he had one room to get crazy, he had another room to get critical, to assess his ideas, and then he had a third room to implement an idea and work out its details. I thought that's also interesting, right? It's not just about inspiration, it's about perspiration. You have one room to have the idea, to be creative, another room to criticize it and make it better. That's why you should never use brainstorming, because in brainstorming, critique is taboo, and critique is the most important thing to make ideas better. And he knew that, so he had a room dedicated to criticizing ideas. Or let's take somebody from a completely different realm, Susan Sontag, one of the greatest literary critics who ever lived. And she also she studied a lot of creative people. And she found people who are creative are not born creative, are not gifted, don't have a talent. What they do is they are constant and persistent in their creativity. The good writers, they write every day. The good inventors, they scribble down new technology ideas every day. The good creative teams have creative discussions every day. If you want innovation, make it a daily habit. If you want to be more creative, try to have ideas every day. I've started a weekly LinkedIn post so that I'm obliged to invent a new visualization every week. Or for 10 years, I told my kids goodnight stories every night, which is a nice thing to do, but it also forced me to be more creative. Every night, even when I was dead tired, they wanted a new story, and I had to invent it. Right? So creativity needs to be taken care like a baby that needs to be nourished. You can't say, today's Tuesday, I'll feed my baby again on Thursday. Right? That won't work. You have to feed it every, 2 hours? And it's a bit similar, Susan Sontag said, with creativity. Or another one of my favorite examples, Fleming, who of course invented or discovered penicillin. So this is about not the persistence, this is about the other dimension, the openness. And there is a concept in innovation studies that you should all know or have heard about probably that designates this kind of openness, and it's called serendipity. Is there a Portuguese word for it? Serendipidade. Serendipidade. I just add a G, and then it's... Okay, yeah, boa acaso. So he went on a trip. When he came back, he saw there was mold on some liquid, but not everywhere. Where there were certain fungi, there was no mold. He discovered one of the most potent medical interventions ever, penicillin, by pure serendipity, by chance. And he said, I only discovered it because I had an open mind. You always have to have an open mind. When a customer gives you weird feedback, don't dismiss it. Take it as something interesting. One sometimes finds what one is not looking for. Sometimes you're looking for one kind of problem and you find a completely different solution. I remember this one pharmaceutical company who was looking for a cure for prostate cancer. And what did they find? A really good drug for hair. Right? They noticed, when we give finasteride, this substance, to prostate cancer candidates, they suddenly have more hair, right? And there are dozens of examples. Potato chips were invented like that. Champagne, thank God, was invented like that. Dom Pérignon, the priest, he was trying to fix an over-fermentation problem with wine and accidentally discovered how to make champagne. I don't care a lot about other innovations, but this one was definitely important, right? Champagne, the result of serendipity. And so, by the way, also Post-it notes that a lot of innovation workshops use. Post-it notes were discovered when 3M had produced a really bad glue that didn't stick, but they invented a new method. By the way, I'm very skeptical because of the research that I did about Post-it notes. I hardly ever use Post-it notes. We found when you work with Post-it notes, people are just focused on their own idea and they want to present their own Post-it. And you can never read it and you can't fit your idea on it. There's many issues. We had talked about this before. I prefer digital ideation. Post-it notes have many things wrong with them. Not as many as brainstorming, but Post-it notes can be also problematic. But they were invented, and that's why I put them here, by serendipity. And you can have as many creativity techniques as you want, and I will show you some of the best. But you should never neglect the importance of by chance discoveries. Boa sorte ou boa causalidade? Boa sorte, né? It's so important to be open to fruitful accidents, to serendipity. Have all your methods and ferramentos e instrumentos. They're really important, but also maximize the occurrence of perchance discoveries by having a very open mindset. This is what we can learn from Fleming's discovery of penicillin. And this brings me to the tool. Sometimes you can also have perchance combinations. Steve Jobs famously said, creativity is just connecting things in a new way. Creativity is combination. When you ask creative people how they did something, they feel guilty because they said, well, I didn't invent it. I just saw something that I could combine. It became obvious to me. Right? Creativity, if you want to make it happen more, innovation, if you want to engineer it, use combination. And I want to conclude my section on individual with a tool I developed that works very well for individuals and teams called the Idea Bandit. You can also download an empty version and put in Portuguese words. It always works with an adjective, sort of a prefix and a noun. And I've used this many, many times, also now helping innovators in Medellin. And it works every time, no matter what your question is. All you do is combine at random 3 words. For example, a lateral relations amplifier. And you ask yourself, why is that term a solution to my problem? And people are amazing. Within seconds, they see a connection from this word to their problem. And it helps them to have more serendipitous discoveries. This is also called random word technique. You can also do it with images. It's one of the genre of creativity techniques that works by association. And it's amazing how just 3 random words like early synergy connector, right? If we said, how can we have a better event here? I just pick 3 random words, early synergy connector. Why not, when people come in the room, have them tell maybe what problem they're working on, and we find synergies early in the conference to connect people, right? Like a little bit like the Sankey also does, right? So no matter what your problem is, with such a bandit, you can get nudges for ideas very quickly. Because Stephen Jobs was right, creativity is often just combination. And if you have an open mindset, these words will give you good ideas. Right? So there's your first level, there's your first tool. We are summarizing. I like to use the diamond. They're not just a woman's best friend, because like diamond, creativity has to be found in the rough. You have to cut away what is not essential and then polish it, improve it to make it shine. So we have completed the individual level. We have seen 2 factors that are key. Creative people are very persistent and they are very open-minded. We've seen one important concept on this level, serendipity, perchance discoveries. They are easier to see if you are open-minded. And we have seen one way to open your mind and to combine ideas, the bandit. I will show you 3 more tools. If this one isn't to your liking, we still have 3 more chances. Let me move on to the team level. So every time I will give you a key concept, key factors, and a tool. For the individual, that was serendipity, persistence and openness, and the bandit. Let's now go to the teams, because creativity and innovation mostly happens in teams. So the worst thing you can do for innovation in teams is brainstorming, which was invented in 1952 by Osborne, and in 1954 the first study showed it's bad. It doesn't work. Where everybody just yells out their idea. And don't believe me, believe Dilbert. Okay, who wants to go first with the brainstorming? Well, sorry, boss, I suggest we ignore all of the studies, and there are dozens of studies that say brainstorming doesn't work for innovation. And then the boss says, I hate you, a little extra. And you, why? Because I agreed with your plan, let's do brainstorming. But if you do brainstorming, you're just being pseudo-creative, and you're not really creative. And I can quantify that also. There's many studies that show in brain writing, you get more ideas and better ideas than in brainstorming. What did these studies show? They show that when you just yell out your idea, a lot of people don't participate. All of the introverts, they just lean back and enjoy the show. But introverts usually have the best ideas. They feel much more comfortable writing down their idea and then sharing it. But in brainstorming, whoever has an idea has to yell it out. And that's bad because you actually don't get stimulated by that, you get confused. You can't think of a good idea yourself when you have to listen to others who share their ideas. I think the worst thing about brainstorming is whoever says the first idea contaminates the whole room to think into the same direction. You might have a diverse group of people, but if you let the boss say the first solution to the innovation problem you're talking about, everybody will say, yeah, that's the solution. So it's very simple to fix this problem. Never do brainstorming, always do brainwriting. Never let people share ideas right away, force them to write it down and then share it. In this way, everybody has to participate and say the idea that they wrote down. In this way, you can really listen to each other and get stimulated from each other. The constraints, sometimes I like to constrain brainwriting. I say, how would we solve the problem in 10 days? How would we solve the problem in 10 weeks? How, if we had all the time in the world, how would we solve the problem in 10 years? Right? You can change the constraints. And when you do brainwriting, there's no premature contamination. Everybody thinks about the idea differently. And there's no production blocking. What does production blocking mean? It means when you listen to somebody telling their idea, they block your idea production. You cannot multitask. You cannot think of a good idea while at the same time you have to listen to somebody else telling theirs. And of course, one of the 4 rules of brainstorming is no criticism, which is a stupid rule. That's why no one in the innovation sector uses brainstorming. The Hollywood studios don't use it because they know how do you turn a good idea into a great idea? Through criticism. But it has to be good criticism. I'm going to give you a tool, the best protocol for making criticism. But first, a little bit of research. So we know what the key problems are of innovation in teams. Social loathing. People don't contribute ideas. Conformity. They are afraid to share weird ideas. They want to be part of the team. Production blocking. You can't think of an idea because you have to listen to another. And also not being ambitious enough. We can solve, researchers solve these problems by having more diverse teams where always the youngest person speaks first. Whoever has the least seniority in the room, after everybody has written down their idea, they get to go first. Why? Because they have the freshest mind, the newest perspective, but they're also the most afraid to share their idea. And if they go last, they will just say, yeah, I agree with everybody else. So they have to go first. We should always write first and then share. If possible, we should have trained facilitators, and we should always have high goals. I always tell people, you now have to come up with at least 5 or 10 ideas. Have high ambition level, that's very important, and allow for non-conformist spaces, allow for criticism. The best tool I know for good brainwriting sessions is the PPCO. PPCO means whenever somebody shares an idea, give immediate feedback, but follow these steps. Positivo, potencial, crítica e solução. Plus potential, concern, overcome. So somebody says, yeah, we could win new customers by doing an Instagram campaign. Now you must react to that and we say, what I really like, the plus about your idea is it will work great for young clients, for our youngest generation of clients. I can see potential also for our recruiting. Maybe if you want to recruit new engineers, this Instagram campaign will help us not just for winning clients, but also employees. My concern is we have no know-how about Instagram campaigns. We can overcome this perhaps by having an intern who has done that before, who helps them. Right? So you always have to criticize ideas in a way to improve them. That's the key idea behind the PPCO tool. And I always write that on a flip chart. So that people remember it. So don't ban criticism. The most important thing in a team is good criticism for its innovation ability. But I also want to mention something. Teams are actually not the best for creativity. pairs are much better. You can see that in the history of innovation from Hewlett-Packard to Microsoft, to Apple, you know, Steve Wozniak, Steve Jobs, to Google, Sergey Brin and Larry Page, right? There were always teams, or the Wright brothers, or the discovery of the DNA. It's usually always teams of two. There are different kinds of teams of two, like there's the doer and the dreamer, very powerful combination, top left. There's the complementary team with complementary skills, one technology manager, one marketing manager in the case of Apple. There's the leader and the manager, one person who can motivate others and the other who checks if they've done their work. That's the top right. Or one of my favorite teams, the mentor and the mentee. The older employee who has experience, the younger who has maybe new knowledge and energy. Or the last kind of team relevant for innovation, the foreground, background team. One person who has the good ideas, the other person who can sell the ideas. It's not always the same. Creative people tend to be introverts, and so they might not be the best to sell their ideas. That's where you need a pair, where you can really have an extrovert that pairs up with an introvert. And you can ask yourself, who would be the optimal pair for you? Now, not privately, not in terms of coupling, but in terms of your innovation ability. Are you the dreamer or the doer? Are you the foundation, or are you the person who's more the elegant and agile one? Are you the leader who inspires, or are you the manager who plans really well? Are you the mentor or the mentee? Are you the front stage or the backstage person? It's very rare that you can be all of this. So ask yourself, for your innovation, what teams of two can you be a part of? And as a manager, if you have a company, can you help people pair up? Right? Can you help people form these really creative duos? That would be my advice regarding teams. The best teams are teams of two, except if it's Ike and Tina Turner, or Cher and her husband. That didn't work out. When you work in teams, don't go virtual. Latest research published in Nature shows when you're staring into a screen, you are limiting your creativity. That's why when I do virtual ideation, I tell people, okay, now let's switch off the webcam, let's switch off the monitor, and let's work with a piece of paper. You are not as creative when you look into a monitor as you are when working with a piece of paper or closing your eyes. Many other studies have also shown when people try to be creative, they look into white space. You don't need external stimuli. You need internal reflection space. Some studies, I think one out of Stanford even showed, ideation in the dark is better than when the light is on. But it takes a lot of courage to tell people, now let's switch off the lights and pull the curtains. But at least in video conferencing, you can, or my facilitation software, I can make the screen dark. And that helps. And tell people, switch off the webcam. Look outside. Write down your ideas. Because video conferencing hampers, kills idea generation because it focuses communicators on a screen, which prompts a narrower cognitive focus that is detrimental to creativity. I think that's an important finding for a team level. Which brings us to the organizational level. The key concept in this module was teams of two, pair work, very powerful. The key success factor was having a very diverse team and using that diversity through brainwriting and not destroying it through brainstorming, and creating a constructive, safe space by using PPCO, positive, potential, concern, overcome, constructive feedback, and a space that is not virtual, but a space that lets you explore new ideas. Which brings me to the organizational level. Here, the key enabler I want to focus on is what is called an innovation culture, which every innovating company needs, but is so hard to develop. And Pisano has done a good job listing at least 5 key requirements of an innovation culture, and you won't be surprised to find again, like in the individual level and the team level, openness. Being open for ideas from the outside, but with a clear focus on where we need to be open. Other elements are collaboration across boundaries, which is also openness. Psychological safety, which we already saw, is important on the team level, but paired with candor. So not just saying here why your idea is great, the positive, here's where your idea has more potential. No, also say here's my concern with your idea. I wish your idea would have this and how to overcome it. And you need experimentation and tolerance for failure. Let me address the last point. In our new book called Office Monsters, we have one monster that is called the Nemean lion, which protects the entrance to an organization. It's a killer of innovation, this Nemean lion. The NIH stands for not invented here. And it's a syndrome that many engineering cultures, who's from an engineering company in here? Anyone willing to admit they're from an engineer? No engineers? Who's an engineer? All right, all right. Thank you. So engineers have very elaborate professional pride. And that professional pride is like a lion who says, I can do it better. I don't need your help. This is from some completely different company, it won't work, right? So this lion fends off innovation from elsewhere. When you should be open-minded, you say, no, no, we can do it better because of professional pride, right? And you can fight it by saying, hey, why not try it? Or with the IKEA effect, saying, hey, why don't you make it yourself? Why don't we take something and improve it? And then it's from us. So what I'm saying is, innovation culture needs to be curated, and at its core must be an openness. The biggest enemy to that openness is the lion of pride. You have to find a ways to make it okay to take on board ideas from other organizations and then make them your own. You just cannot afford to ignore great ideas that are out there. Not everything has to be developed in-house, right? That would be my main message regarding innovation culture. The key concept I want to leave you with on this level is the one of the ambidextrous organization. There is no other topic in innovation studies that has been discussed as much as this one. Because many people have realized today to survive as an organization, you must be at the same time very efficient and cost-cutting, but also invest in new ventures. You must be doing at the same time exploitation, not of your workforce, of your current products, and exploration. You must be schizophrenic as an organization. You must have a brain for efficiency, while at the same time have a brain for innovativeness. And that's hard to combine. So some companies, they say, no, we are just efficient, and the innovation, we outsource that. Or we have another company for that. And sometimes, okay. But the really successful organizations, they combine both modes. They're like ambidextrous, left and right-handed. Exploitation and exploration. What is exploration? Exploration, I really learned what exploration is from surfing. It's very painful. But I learned surfing teaches me a lot about exploration, about being open for innovation. When you start to surf, has anyone here tried surfing? So you must know this also from painful experience. You actually start on a surfboard. Yeah. But you start on land. And the same with new innovations. It's best to do it in the lab. You know, experiment in the lab on a dry, sort of where it's not dangerous. And then when you learn surfing, you go into the white waves first, the foam, right? You don't go to the really big waves. And in innovation, you go to benevolent customers who like you, or customers who are really into new things. You don't go to your most critical customers with your new products first, right? But then you try to really also get negative feedback. You try to, like in surfing, fail early and reflect, why did I fail? And it's the same in innovation. And also what I found out, as a Swiss, I'm very risk averse. I can learn that from the Brazilians. You have more risk appetite. So I was always surfing in the small waves until my trainer said, for God's sake, Martin, go into the big waves. And I'm glad he pushed me, because there you learn something completely new, right? So Brazilian companies from Belo Horizonte, you have to go for the big waves. You have to say, we want to have an international market, right? Why? Okay, Brazil is a huge market, of course. But why not think bigger? Why not think all of South America? Why not think North America? Why not think Asia and Europe? Think big, right? Okay, it was painful when I got smashed by the big wave, for sure, but it also motivated me to try to do it better, to take the next big wave. So I think there's a lot we can learn about exploration practices from surfing and from other areas of life, to take risks, but to learn from them, to be very ambitious and to dream big, and not stay in what you already master. One thing that I wanted to quickly share with you, a concept that I find very useful, is the boundary object concept, which sounds theoretical but is super practical. In every organization, there are artifacts that help engineers collaborate with managers and marketing people. For example, visual plans or roadmaps. This is from our road mapping software. If you have sort of different streams where the people can find how their activities contribute to others, that's sort of a boundary object. The simplest example of a boundary object is a floor plan, a building blueprint. If you build a house, you're going to build a house for your family soon, probably, maybe. So the blueprint is useful for you. Your wife can maybe, if she likes, know which furniture goes where. The plumber knows where to install maybe the water, the electrician where to put the plugs. They can all use the same visual, the blueprint of the building, but for different purposes. And that's where innovation happens. When you have a common focus, like a process flow chart, a customer journey, it can be a prototype, it can be a business innovation canvas, it can be a project Gantt chart, or it can be technology roadmaps. But they have to have certain features. In the literature, it says very clearly, not every object is a boundary object. It has to have certain flexibility. For example, we can easily introduce a new stream in our software. We can easily change the time scope. We can make streams bigger. It has to be flexible, like a towel, or like the bands outside with the Sankey. It has to have plasticity, but you also must be able to freeze it and say, okay, this is what we're going to go with. This is the official version. So there are certain characteristics that you need to really use a boundary object. By the way, boundary object is one of the most cited innovation concepts in all of innovation studies. So there's really something to it. The definition is, it's anything that's visible, that different professional groups can use differently, but converge their ideas with. It's a bit of a technical definition. Right? It's like a blueprint. It's something that helps us coordinate our work. From a product prototype to, I think the best example is a technology roadmap. Does that make sense? I think it's the most sophisticated concept that I had in my presentation. Here's a really simple tool, and I think this is the last tool. It's my favorite tool, although it is from the Harvard Business School. It's a really cool tool. All you have to do for innovation as an organization, and I use this with a lot of high-tech and materials companies, is draw 3 circles. The first circle is your company and all the skills and assets and products it has. The second circle are your clients and all their needs. And the third circle is the competition. Now, what I love about this tool, it starts with the sweet spot. What are innovations that only we can produce to satisfy client needs that our competitors cannot have? That's the sweet spot. And you come up with great ideas that are unique to your company. But then you also look at the sour spots. Where are we losing clients? Where do we need to be more innovative because our clients go to the competition because they can't have it from us? That's the second really cool area in this diagram, the sour spot. And then innovation also means stopping things. I should stop soon, sorry about that. Innovation also means stopping things. The last intersection up here, this is the things you need to stop. And I've done this with quite a few companies, and we always found 3 things that they did that they needed to stop. Exovation is as important as innovation. Exovation means, what do we need to kick out because it no longer adds value? Innovation also means letting go of things. Things that you are doing and you're offering, things that the competition are doing, but that the client no longer cares about. It's hard to let go of them, but it's important. You can save a lot of money when you do that, right? So that's excavation. Thinking about what can we stop because it no longer adds value. So what this chart does, it asks you 3 really compelling questions to be innovative. And it's super simple. It's a Venn diagram. It asks you, in what way can we use our assets to satisfy clients' needs that the competition cannot? How can we be unique? Second question, where is our competition unique and how can we destroy that uniqueness? How can we imitate them? For that you need to tame the Nemean lion. You have to be open in your innovation culture. And thirdly, and that also requires openness, what's the Me Too zone? Me Too in a different way here. Me Too in the sense, what are we doing that the competitors are doing, but we should stop it because the clients no longer care about it. Like product catalogs or going to fairs in the age of virtual marketing. Maybe there are things we can save money by. Which brings me to our last level. So we have done the individual, the team, the organization. I wanted to highlight the importance of innovation culture and openness and experimentation, but also the concept of boundary object that is also important for teams. And the example was technology roadmaps, visual plans. And I introduced the concept of ambidexterity, being at the same time improving your efficiency and your innovation, exploration and exploitation. Which brings me to the last level, and then we're done, the innovation ecosystem. And here I found something really interesting. For the last 4 weeks, I've been conducting interviews in Medellin. Does anyone know about Medellin? It's not what you think. You think Pablo Escobar, right? But actually it's been voted by Wall Street Journal and Forbes as the most innovative city in the world twice. It has amazing innovation capability, and I wondered why. So I went to study it, and here's what I found. I came up with a checklist to see, is Belo Horizonte an innovation ecosystem? Now let's see what we can tick off. I'm going to show you what I found. I found so-called innovation magnets in Medellin. Things that make Medellin a center of innovation. Here's what Medellin did. They have a very central magnet. Let me magnify that so that you can see that better. Medellin has, maybe you've heard of this organization, Ruta N. They have a one-stop shop, a building for all things about innovation. Where companies go, where students go, they have one key player that has a $20 million budget a year just for innovation enabling. It's amazing. It had some ups and downs, but it's pretty amazing what they do there. I went to visit it twice. So they have a central magnet. If anyone cares about innovation, they know, oh, I go to Ruta N. They also have a very strong alliance, and I see that here also in Belo Horizonte. This is a magnet I see here, between universities, the government, and the companies. It's amazing. Every Friday, every first Friday of the month, the mayor and the presidents of the universities and the startup managers and the innovation investors meet in a room every first Friday. University, government, companies. And that's a very strong way to resolve innovation issues quickly. So this alliance between government, companies, and education is very strong. Plus they have a culture, and I see that here as well, the Minas culture. They have a culture, they call it the Paisa culture, they call it the Antioquia culture. We're not only doing innovation to improve and make more money, we also do it to help our region. And I see that a little bit in Belo Horizonte also, no? That you are proud of Minas Gerais, you're proud of Belo Horizonte, and when you're innovating, you also want to help your region. And that's a strong magnet in Medellin. They want to have social inclusion, they want to have sustainability, they want to get away from the drug cartel past to a new sort of being famous for something else. And they have defined, I don't know if, I know this tech park has defined the clusters. I don't know if Belo Horizonte has defined clusters. Medellin defined 7 clusters, of which the most important ones are health, tourism, and energy, where it wants to be world competitive. So it has clear focus areas of innovation. And it would be interesting to think about, does Minas Gerais or Belo Horizonte have clear clusters? We just heard about one of them, the nanomaterials, right? Nanomaterials is a cluster with worldwide excellence in Belo Horizonte. They also have very great, and I think this applies totally to, very much to Belo Horizonte as well. They have academic magnets. They have institutions that stand out, that are world-class, like UFMG, right? They are innovation magnets for sure. Another thing, and maybe this, BH-TEC, they have in very close proximity banks, startup companies, investors, big corporates, co-working spaces, shopping. They have these mashups that have been shown to be important for innovation districts. Within a mile, they call it the Mila de Oro, the golden mile. You find all of that. Proximity matters, right? Proximity matters. I always like to think Pampula is such a Mila de Oro. I don't know, but it could be. And they have a clear policy for innovation. Colombia has defined Medellin as the national technology, science, and innovation district. And they are allowed to exempt, they have certain rules. They are exempted from certain rules, so they can do, for example, stem cell research that maybe not everybody can do. And they're building a new port and a new highway to the port. They are ramping up their airport, and they have a cultura metro. They have a culture of the metro. If you are taking the metro in Medellin, I thought it was the most amazing experience I've ever had in a metro till I came to Belo Horizonte. When you go to the metro in Medellin, it's crystal clear. It's clean. Nobody eats, nobody drinks, everybody's respectful. The Medellin people are amazingly proud of their metro. And the metro brings people in also from the favelas, and the metro even has cable cars. And they're really proud of the metro, and I thought, wow, this is amazing. But then I came to Belo Horizonte, and I went to a Halloween party that took place inside the metro. I said, okay, this is even better than Medellin. Because the metro is private here, right? The metro is private. All right, let me wrap up. I found also some other important magnets. Events like this one are actually very important innovation magnets. Informal events where you can meet easily, that's where innovation also happens. And one reason why so many digital nomads go to Medellin, and I think here it's also similar to Belo Horizonte, or I thought before I came here and it just rained all the time. They call it eternal spring, right? They have always nice climate. But I think Belo Horizonte also has nice climate, and that's important. Quality of living, innovators want a nice quality of living. And Belo Horizonte has that. Ok, o mineiro come quieto, e isso não ajuda sempre a inovação. But the climate, generally also the collaboration climate is very positive. And I found a few other magnets, but they do not apply to Medellin, but they apply to other innovation sectors, historic reasons for being innovative, external forces that help you. For example, in Costa Rica, the North Americans have invested a lot, and it has helped its innovation climate. Subsidies can help. Regulatory magnets, Singapore is an example of that, and Panama City. I was just in Panama. They do stuff that would be never legal in Europe, the stuff that they do medicine-wise, and also financial services-wise. So the regulatory magnet also exists. Does that make sense? So these are enabling factors for innovation, not at an individual, team, or organizational level, but on an ecosystem level. Now, I think in the future, we will talk a lot more about ecosystems. I think cultures that are not polarized, but have a collaboration culture, will have a competitive advantage. So this Paisa culture, or this Minas culture, that's a really key innovation advantage that you have. When you like each other, you like collaborating across academic disciplines, from companies to government to universities. Not everybody can do that. A lot of countries are in polarized politics, polarized culture, and that's not conducive to innovation. So in conclusion, here you have the key points for the ecosystem. I think these magnets can be a useful tool for what we know from innovation district research. spanning more than 67 innovation districts in the world. These mashups are very important. And one thing that I also want to mention, and Raoni, you are such a innovation enabler, connectors. Individuals like Raoni who can connect academics and practitioners, researchers and startups, investors, inventors. Those connectors are super important for innovation ecosystems, and if you have them, cultivate those connectors. What is also important for the ecosystem, however, is to have a critical mass of something. That's why I emphasize the clusters. That's why Medellin is investing in the entertainment cluster, because of the 100 in the world most streamed artists, 20 live in Medellin. It's amazing, right? It's the capital of reggaeton. And if you have that, why not exploit it? They have a critical mass in reggaeton talent. And they have now an incubator for reggaeton, right? So you have to have a critical mass of something to exclude it. And I hope that some of the tools were useful to you, the Bandit, the PPCO feedback, the sweet spot, or this idea of magnets. So this is the official summary, like the institutional factors that Raoni mentioned. But there's also an unofficial summary. I think we can take all of this into account. And innovation can still fail if there's a lack of one thing. And that one thing is passion, your inner fire. That's really what I think the summary should be. If you want to look at all of these levels, Hegel was right. Nothing great has ever been achieved without passion. So you have to also curate your own passion. If you have something that you feel you're passionate about, nourish it. Use that spark and go with it. If there's something that really you're curious about, follow that passion. If you have something that, you know, this is purely what your life is about, then live it. You won't be happy if you don't do it. If you see others share that passion, if it's pervasive, then have connectors. Connect people who are passionate about the same thing. Like today, we're all passionate about technology. We're passionate about digitalization. We're passionate about innovation. We should connect because we can nourish each other's passion. But if your passion is pernicious, of course, you have to replace it. Not all passions are great. And if you are hanging out with people who are killing your passion, then hang out with different people. And with that, thank you very much for your attention.